Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 204, The Veil of Isis, Mysteries of the Druids. An interesting work, about 150 pages, so it's relatively fleshed out. It appears to have been written in two stages back in the middle of the 19th century. The first few sections are specifically about the Druids, and then it looks like the author, and the dedication to one of his friends makes it appear as though that's the case. Like, he wrote a few sections, shelved the project for multiple years, then went back to it and decided to add a bunch of other interesting stuff that really doesn't always have to do with the Druids. The Veil of Isis part has to do specifically with like some of the mystery traditions. It speaks at length on the Catholic Church and their symbolism, the Freemasons. Oh, by the way, link in the description of my edition of this work is on Amazon. Second and third links to my books, blogs. Can't forget saying that. It's about mystery traditions, folklore, folk rites that were then modern. For instance, there was one that really appeals to me, the use of pins in divination, especially for romantic reasons, especially by young maidens. I've actually read about this in fortune-telling works contemporary to the period, so it's definitely was even then in sway. I'm not sure if it is so much now, but definitely in the British Isles and elsewhere, the use of pins to divine if a woman was chaste or who she would marry, various practices, various little incantations using pins. I think Leland also speaks of that, a pin in an apple being part of one's gypsy sorcery thing from his time actually in Italy, in the Toscana region. So it's actually rather interesting to look at all this folklore, but it is a very dense compilation of folklore. Some of these passages are a few sentences in length from the third section on. Before that, you get the three main kinds of the Druids, you know, like the bards and like the Druid priest class and stuff. Some of their rites and rituals, the destruction of the Druids, you know, you'd think of the Roman invasion and how they slaughtered everyone. After ravishing the queen's daughters and beating her like a slave, she took up arms and, you know, unfortunately completely lost, and they all died, basically. It talks about the then modern bard practices in Wales, actually, which are even ongoing now. It's sort of become a cultural rather than religious practice, but it comes off the Druids. Now, the influence of the Phoenicians and some of these other groups, the similar traditions among the Druids and their diaspora through the Catholic Church. When Rome invades, they absorb some of that into the core of their religion. They become Catholics, they become Christians. It infests Catholicism as well, and talking about all of the symbolism and rites and practices in Catholicism being at least influenced. The holidays, the idea of Christmas or All Hallows Eve, some of these Catholic holidays are directly based on paganism, and this is known. At the time, there was more debate over it, and it sort of falls out of favor in the Fire and Brimstone period. Musings of this kind fall out of favor. Then they sort of are revived in the Victorian era, peter back out in the 30s, and now they've been revived over the last like 20 years, like in the like with Zeitgeist and stuff like that. Now, some of that is hokum, but it is true that paganism played a huge role in shaping what became Christendom, especially the Catholic Church. Not so much the Protestant faith, although to an extent that is an adaptation of elements of Catholicism, so it's basically the same. So it's a fairly long work. It is very dense and involved. If you like history, if you like the Druids, if you like then modern, like sort of mid-19th century folklore, stuff about Wales and Ireland, the bards and all their poetry. It has poetry in it, it has secondary sources. It's got literally a little bit of everything within this work. It's quite interesting. Highly recommended. I'm now editing a work on occult science, actually, that I think people will like as well. That'll be 205. So again, link in the description of my edition of this work is on Amazon. Second and third links to my books blog. I put this in the folklore section, although technically it also fits under spirituality and academics, so I had to sort of, you know, flip a coin several times to determine, so to speak. That's about all. Peace out.